When Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker came out to cinemas on the 19th of December 2019, I was ecstatic. I was super looking forward to this film, and I was hoping that it would bring a satisfying conclusion to the Skywalker saga, and when I came out of the theatres, well, I loved it. It might have just been all the hype for the film, but I generally thought it was a good film that told a great story and wrapped up all nine movies quite well. Because I had seen this movie early on, even before it had been released in some countries, I had no idea what the response to this film was going to be before seeing it, meaning I had no idea if this movie was going to be good or bad. It wasn't until a few days later when I was reading the paper and came across the movie reviews, and I was shocked to see that The Rise of Skywalker had done terribly with critics. I mean, not as bad as Cats that came out that week as well, but it still did worse than The Phantom Menace, which is just so surprising. So I sat there and wondered, what happened to this film, and why do so many people hate it? So then a few months later, The Rise of Skywalker came out to Disney Plus. I decided to watch it, remembering how much I enjoyed it the first time, and something just stuck out at me that I didn't actually notice in theatres, and that is that The Rise of Skywalker played it way too safe. Now let's start out with the storyline and plot for this film. Now personally, I think that the storyline is quite good and is set into action pretty quickly. They have discovered that Palpatine is alive, which I'll get into a bit later, and he's in an unknown region called Exegol. And this is where the characters need to try and stop his plans, and that means travelling to a lot of places in the galaxy. And I mean a lot of places. With a runtime of 2 hours and 22 minutes, this film has to tie up a whole saga and make it its own story, which they did quite well for a lot of it, and it does make a compelling story that does keep you on the edge of your seat and your heart pounding, but they unfortunately felt like they had to try and fix the events of The Last Jedi. If you've seen my Last Jedi review, I actually quite liked that movie, and I was a little annoyed when they tried to make it like it didn't happen. Examples of this might be Luke's lightsaber being fixed, Kylo Ren's mask being put back together, Rey's parents, and Luke throwing away his lightsaber. I know The Last Jedi didn't do too well with audience, but that's in the past, and there's no point trying to fix its creative decisions. And this is one of the reasons why I think the movie decided to play it safe. Because I like The Last Jedi for trying new things, being bold and taking risks, but The Rise of Skywalker, well, didn't take many risks at all. Because of course they're not going to take risks with this movie if the last one didn't do well. Because if no one likes it, then they're just going to make a story that they hope everyone will like. So playing it safe is probably just the best option. This movie just felt like it was written by more than one person, which is not actually far from the truth. With the last two movies, both directors had complete creative control when it came to the story, and this one was written by, it felt like a committee, throwing heaps of ideas at the script and just hoping it'll all work out. And it gets me wondering, did this trilogy even have a plan to follow, or did they just try and work around it every movie? What I mean is, was the story building to something bigger that ties and connects the trilogy? And that's what leads me into the characters. For the most part, I actually think they dealt with the characters really well. Rey's training to be a Jedi, Finn and Poe, they have a little bit to do, but it would have been good if they extended their characters a little, and the rest of the side characters are dealt with just fine. I like how they brought back all the original characters like Luke, Han, Lando, and even Leia makes an appearance in this film. As you know, Carrie Fisher passed away in 2016, and they weren't sure how they were going to put her in the movie. But they found a way, and they did it in a real respectful way, and she had a bigger part than I thought, being Rey's mentor. But there was just one character in this film that I felt shouldn't be there, and that is Palpatine. As you might recall, the last time we saw Palpatine, he was thrown into a reactor core, and a few moments later the whole Death Star exploded. But then in the Rise of Skywalker trailer, it is revealed that Palpatine is returning. But how is he still alive? In the film, they don't actually give us a good explanation on how he's still alive, and explaining it in the Rise of Skywalker canon books doesn't count. I think everyone can agree that Palpatine is a good villain, and I think it ties nicely if he's in the final film in this saga, because he's kind of been the whole big villain this whole time. But they should have built it up, or at least hinted at this big reveal. Like, instead of the broom kid at the end of The Last Jedi, they should reveal that Palpatine was alive this whole time and what he's working towards, instead of just mentioning it in the opening crawl. Because I guess they just expect that everyone has watched the trailer for this film and knows he's back. But if you haven't seen the trailers, you'd probably be a little disappointed about this reveal. And spoilers, but it's kind of strange how he's Rey's grandfather, because not everyone in Star Wars has to be related, and plus, it just asks even more questions. Now, because this is the final installment of the series, they need to answer a few questions and have a lot of emotional impact. And this movie did answer a few of the questions, and it did alright, and it did have a few emotional moments, but those moments are quickly fixed and just forgotten about. A few examples of this might be Rey accidentally blowing up the ship Chewie's in, and everyone thinking he is dead, but then just a few scenes later, it reveals that he was on another transport. Rey stabbing Kylo Ren, but then she just heals him straight away. And C-3PO getting his memory wiped, but then R2-D2 just has a backup and he gets restored. These moments are just fixed quickly with no emotional impact. And when you're trying to answer questions and tie up a story, it makes the movie seem really rushed and forced. And it always seems like the characters just end up where they need to be. In fact, it almost would have been better if they just split the movie into two parts. That way they would have had more time for backstory, twists, turns, character development, redemption, and a story that doesn't feel like it's taking you to 100 planets. Sure, I love when they go exploring to new places in Star Wars, but it seems like they go to one location, stay there for a few minutes, and then move on to the next. As a movie, it's done really well, and it's probably just better if it's just its own standalone film. But as the final installment to a saga that has been going for 40 plus years, well, it does struggle a little. But despite all that, I still think they did a really good job with what they had, and apart from a few notable things, it's still a really fun Star Wars movie. It handled fan service really well and a lot of references, which I don't usually like because it seems really forced, but because this is the final film in the saga, it's okay and it gives you a good feeling inside. And this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I love the inclusion of the destroyed Death Star. And it's not the best Star Wars movie, but I don't think it should be regarded as the worst one. And I do think Disney will learn from their mistakes and produce Star Wars films in the future that do a good job and please most people. I'm not that sure what they have installed for Star Wars in the future, but I do hope that we get to spend more time with these new characters from this trilogy, because these are really good characters that have a lot of depth, and it would have been great if they can explore them more in this trilogy, so hopefully we can see that in movies to come. And even though they did play it safe for this film, it's still a fun final installment in the Skywalker saga. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next Friday.